Welcome to another episode of Reverse Ambition, a podcast that features those who take a leap of faith to follow their dreams and passion. My name is Kelsey Cooper, aka the Social Broker, and I'm very excited to have today's guest. She is the founder of Silver & Riley, a luxury travel and fashion accessory brand. She came from entrepreneurial parents. She is a global citizen. She's been over 100 countries. She has 4 degrees, at least 4 degrees. I counted 4. She has studied business school around the world, including Brazil, Germany, Netherlands, London, and Italy. Lord have mercy. The idea of Silver & Riley took 10 years to develop, but she just leaped into it. Currently, she's a full-time career. Her full-time career is a corporate strategist, executive, and innovation partner at Salesforce, one of the world's largest tech firms. She comes after years as a strategy consultant executive at Deloitte and Accenture. Please welcome Lola Banjo. Is it Lola Banjo?
Yes, Lola Banjo. Yes, you got it.
What's up, girl?
What's up, Kelsey? Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm super excited to be on it. And thank you for the great introduction.
Man, listen, I kind of batched it up, but I think it's going to be...
No, it's okay. I think you got the main highlights and the main key things. I'm sure people are probably like, what? This girl's doing the most.
Oh, you are doing the most. Matter of fact, you did the most. I'm like, I'm so excited to talk to you about how you end up where you are now. First of all, I had to cut down your bio. Like, it has so much information in it. And I was like, how the hell, this woman, you're not old. You're like in your, probably mid-30s, if that. And you did all this, but we're going to get there. What I usually start off with is ask my guests is to take me through the journey from where they're from, where they went to school, what they majored in, and ultimately we're going to end up where we are today. That works for you?
That works perfectly. Love it.
All right. Let's go.
Great. So my name is Lola Banjo. I guess beginnings. Born in Brooklyn, Bedside, do or die.
Nice. Brooklyn.
I've lived in Brooklyn in the house. I've lived all over the world, though, so I consider myself a global citizen. I've lived in London. I've lived in Lagos. I've lived in the Netherlands. And I lived in Jersey, where actually I went to college at Rutgers University, and I majored in engineering and math. So I was super passionate about solving problems and using. I was a nerd from when I was a kid, and so I knew I was going to study engineering and math in some form or shape. And so that's what I majored in. Graduated from Rutgers with a major in material science engineering, math, computer science, and economics as my minor.
Quick question: what age did you? What age did you decide that I wanted to be an engineer? Like most kids don't know nothing about engineering.
Oh my gosh, my father definitely let me know about engineering from very early. So from age 5, I was actually thought I was going to be an astronomer. So I was I'm going to be an astronaut when I grow up.
Wow.
And so I learned everything about the Milky Way, the galaxy from my father very early on. And because he has a PhD in physics and he's super into engineering and science, a lot of the things that, we did when I was younger was around science experiments, learning about physics. He used to make us read, my brother and I read physics textbooks in 2 days, from front to cover. I knew everything about thermodynamics and Newton's law and Boyle's law and all kinds of laws by the time I was my early adolescence here. So,
wow.
And I actually really love this. I know some people tell that story to say my dad put me through blah, 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 blah. I actually really appreciated that because I think that thinking, the way that I was able to kind of be grounded in that, like always asking questions, always like
Mm-hmm.
curious about how to solve problems really has resonated like and followed me throughout life. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful for him for doing that, So uh, it's something that I'm eventually going to torture my kids with as well.
Wow. Damn.
Because, whatever field that they end up going into, whether it's music, sports, um, I think whatever, and it doesn't have to be a science grounded, but whatever kind of ways that you're involved in their life to kind of like instill that discipline and that
Mm.
critical analytical thinking, like where you actually like very curious about things and asking questions, it's gonna get. I feel like it's gonna get you very far in life. Like so, it applies literally to any field. My dad just used science because that's where his background is in.
Right.
So I ended up loving it. I loved it, and throughout my teenage years, I said I was going to become a mathematician. Actually, I was like, I'm going to study math, but then I realized that I'm probably going to become a math professor,
Mm-hmm.
getting a math PhD, and I was like, you know what? I actually like engineering better. So I started gravitating towards like taking AP classes in high school and learning about like physics. I took AP physics, chemistry, and so I was on that path like quite early, but it was of course not easy.
Right. I
I
mean, sound like you did a lot. Did you have any kind of like social life, growing up?
had, so my so it sounds like I was just like I was a nerd through. I just went to school and everything was all gravy. But no, I actually when I was 14, up to when I was 14, like from ages 8 to 14, I was actually living in Nigeria. And then I came back to America when I was 14 to finish out my high school. And there was a series of things that happened in my family life that made the path and that journey and transition very difficult. So it definitely wasn't easy at all. Even though I knew that I was going to be an engineer, I wanted to study it. There was a lot of things that definitely shook up that foundation.
Right.
And I can get into specifics if you want, but so and I tell my siblings or just anyone that I mentor now that they look at my bio and they say, "Oh, you have all these degrees, and it must be so easy for you. Like you must be super smart." And it's never that. It's just like, you have passion for something, you work at it. I think
Mm.
I'm probably not of any superior intelligence than anyone else. It's just that I had passion for these things, and I was determined, no matter what life threw at me, to kind of work at it and just work at what I love. So.
So that's how you end up with
Um,
4 degrees. Like I had
that's how I ended up with 4 degrees.
you had a passion for engineering, mathematics. What else? You got your
Yeah.
MBA. Oh my God!
Well,
Like,
so it turned into like from a passion to realizing that what I actually I have to start making money for myself, my family, and again I went through a lot of things in my family life that made that pretty much like I didn't have a choice but
mm,
to make sure that I'm gravitating towards those things. And I researched very thoroughly on which fields were going to be the most lucrative, that were going to get me like employment, and make sure my skills are being used, and so on and so forth, in order to be able to land myself, in a position that I felt like was comfortable, that I was going to be able to provide for my family. So,
wow.
um,
So you
yeah,
did your
there's
research
definitely
at
a
a
story
early.
there.
This was like during college that you did your research to figure out basically how you're gonna make the most money. uh,
Exactly. I didn't want to put it like that, but
right.
yeah,
You
pretty
gotta keep it
much.
100 here, girl.
Listen.
We want to keep it raw, man. Keep it, no judgment.
Yeah, I used to look at bios of like people that I admired. So I decided very early on that I did not have any musical or entertainment talents.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only talent that I seemed to have was the talent of like academics. And so I was like,
Mm,
okay, you know what? I'm going to hone that and make sure I am leveraging that as much as possible. So I put all my energy into that, and I was like, that's what's going to make me successful in life, and make sure that my path is different, and get me on the my desired trajectory through success.
right.
So and that's what I did. Like I played soccer as well growing up, and I thought maybe I will become an athlete, but then that didn't work out. So I was just
Mm-hmm.
like I poured my energy into school
Wow. Where did you get that focus? Like it just because you had to, because of your situation in terms of
because I had
family.
to.
Right.
Exactly, because I had to. So like I mentioned, a lot of things happened, especially around when I was in my teen years.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of very significant ones was leaving my family, coming to America by myself, and then my mother passing away, and
Mm.
then
Oh, your mother passed
I
away during
going
your
to
teenage years?
yes, exactly.
Wow.
And then I suffered from depression, where I was actually at one point I thought I was gonna kill myself. It was just like there was a lot of
What?
things going on.
Now, first of all, if you see this woman is amazing. She's on top of the world. I mean, when I say she's amazing, she's killing it. Uh her money's good. She looks good. I mean, but she came a long way, clearly, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's what also, not to fast forward to today, but anytime I go through challenges today, I always kind of remind myself of my teen years and my 20s, my early 20s, where I mean, at one point it seemed like there was no hope for success, and
Wow.
there was nothing else I could do, and I was able to navigate through so many challenges to make it out of that. So I always remind myself that,
How
reinforce
did you do
like,
that? I mean,
girl,
how did you navigate coming from so low to a point where okay, I got to make this happen and I'm going to make this happen and you made it happen. I mean, what sparked it for you? Did you have help? Did you were you inspired by
oh,
somebody? How did you come from that to
absolutely. So first of all, there's nothing that you can do by yourself. Like even if you're the one that's putting in the work, there's absolutely you have to have a support system of people that whether inspire you or encourage you verbally or in any kind of ways, like whether they're saying it directly or just like you're inspired by their existence.
mhm.
So I definitely had help in that sense. And I do have family and friends that supported and loved me. And so absolutely that was there. But I think my main inspiration was, my mother. My mother instilled that kind of, you know, perseverance and spirit of being a fighter through no matter what. She used to say one thing that I will always remember and always I'll pass on to my kids. And, she used to say, whenever you're going through anything, like it could be like you have a headache or you hit your leg or you're going through a big life event. She used to say, no condition is permanent. And I
Mm.
used to be like, what does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? And she said that all the time. Like, no condition is permanent. It doesn't matter what you're experiencing today. It's not going to last forever. If you're down, the only way to go is up.
Mm.
And even when you're going through good times, you should cherish it because nothing lasts forever. If you love someone, they're not going to be here forever. No
Mm.
condition is permanent. So make sure you're enjoying and being optimistic about everything that's happening in your life.
Right.
And it sounds cliche, but those words have stayed with me throughout my life.
That's what kept you
Even
going
before the
during
had
those lows.
during those lows. Listen, Kelsey, college, I took 81 credits in 1 year because I knew I had to graduate and I was so far behind.
Oh my God.
81 credits.
Why were you so far
I
behind?
tell this
Because of everything you was going through?
because of everything I was going through. I couldn't pay for school. I was deregistered. My mother passed away, so I dropped out of school for a bit. There was a lot of stuff going on. And
Right.
when, what I just, there was the 1 year I was just like, listen, you are going to make it. You're going to be successful. Your mom did not work hard for you to give up. Like she did
Mm.
not get you to this point for you to give up.
So okay,
And
81 credits
even
is how many classes? That sounds like a lot of classes.
man, let me tell you, there's a lot of classes because the average workload for a year is about 30 credits. That's two semesters of 15 credits each because each class is about 3 credits, right? So I was so far behind though that I had to make up ground. And not only did I have to graduate, I felt like I needed to graduate very strongly
Mm.
with multiple minors, like in order to like make myself undeniable for that job or career, because I was like, I don't want anyone to ever say no.
So you
It
said
felt
81
really
credits in one semester or 1 year?
1 year.
Oh, okay, okay,
Okay, so
okay,
this is how it broke down.
okay.
The summer term, I took 19 credits. In the fall, I took 31 credits. I'll never forget. It was 10 classes and one lab that I had
Ouch.
to take. In
Damn.
the winter term, I took 6 credits, and in the spring, I took like the balance, which I think was like 25 credits. So that's how it broke down. Like I was always in school, but
Oh,
I had to do what I had to
wow.
do, Kelsey. Like I was far behind, and I needed to graduate and start making money. My brother came from Nigeria as well, and he was, essentially looking up to me, and I had to figure out a way to pay for his school, and so
Wow.
I was like, listen, we gotta get things done.
So this is you talking to yourself.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I was like, listen, you gotta get things done. There's no time to feel sorry for yourself. You need to just get it together and keep going. And I looked at my mother, and even my mother and father, like throughout their lives, they never had it easy. Even being
Mm.
together, they didn't have it easy. They're from different religions, and their families were opposed to them being together. And so I looked at how they were able to navigate that challenge and other challenges that they faced, and I was like, I have the spirit of the lion. Like I was birthed
Wow.
by warriors. Like why would
It's
I give
funny
up?
because I see that stuff on social media, like, like, oh my God, my ancestors did not come this far for us to quit,
Yeah,
you know?
that's real.
And
That's
you're
real.
like living testament of that,
That's
in
real.
terms
Because
of, go ahead.
Kelsey, no matter how, I think this perspective always helps me. No matter how bad I may be feeling or down I may be, I always think about the fact that I have more opportunities than so many, like billions in this world. And
Mm,
not to minimize or diminish anyone's experience, right? But that perspective always keeps me going, because I am fortunate and blessed to have two working limbs. I don't
mm,
have any disabilities. I have my hands, I have my brain. And for all the ills that we have in America and the Western world, we are still in a society that somewhat does reward merit, as opposed to a lot of places in the world where people will never, they could be twice, three times as smart, as hardworking, as determined as we are, but they'll never get those opportunities. So I always think
mm.
about them.
Wow.
And I'm like,
So,
who am I to diminish my chances and my opportunities when so many people wish they were in this position?
okay, so you did like 4 years of credits in 1 year, graduated. Like you said, you had to be on top of your class so you could be attractive for the job
Definitely not on
market.
top of my class.
Somewhat close in the middle. What did you do after graduation? Like,
So after graduation, I worked as an engineer. So I was using my degree, and I really enjoyed it. But I started to realize that even though I loved the technical quantitative training that I got, I enjoyed working with people,
mm,
and I didn't want to be restricted to just working with programs and things. I wanted to work with people.
mm-hmm,
So at the same time while I was working, I actually started going to grad school, and got my master's in
mm-hmm,
financial engineering. And that actually came about because, like, I took on a minor in economics when I was an undergrad, and I really enjoyed the topic. I wanted to learn more about the financial system and how money works. So that's why I decided to do my master's in financial engineering. And also because, to be completely honest, I was like, there's a lot of money in it.
It's
Uh,
financial engineering. Is like accounting or is it finance? I mean, what is financial
it's
engineering?
fine. It's like finance on speed. It's 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 It is using financial models to predict the behavior of assets and
mm,
portfolios. So it's like building models, very heavily based in math, and it's like quantitative models, doing analysis, regression, like things like that. And of course, my background being that math has always been my favorite subject. It makes sense for me to go that direction.
Right.
Um, and, actually, I enjoyed it very much. And I was thinking I was going to actually go into the financial services industry. But I was finishing up my degree at the same time that we experienced the stock market crash,
Wow.
the really bad one.
Oh
So
eight, oh eight.
exactly. So I decided to change course and went into corporate finance instead, where it's more like, corporate finance, like I was working as assistant controller at L'Oreal, where you're
Mm.
filing the 10K, the reports, looking at monthly variances, as opposed to like the investment finance side, where you're working with asset classes and, stocks and hedge funds or whatever.
Right.
So, it was a slight shift, but it was a shift that I made, like to just secure my future and not have to worry about, every company needs finance, like corporate finance professionals, as
Right.
opposed to, the stock market can have a lot of volatility.
Right. There's so many people that I know who graduated from Harvard and Wharton and all these top business school that had no jobs in finance in '08. So, or actually '08, '09. And I was like, wow, and they have accumulated all this debt and loans. So, doing that pivot was genius.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know what? Like, I wouldn't say anything that I've done has been genius. It's really like just me taking a leap of faith and trying what I think would work out best at the time.
Mm.
And, you know, and not every decision I've made has been excellent, but, sometimes you don't know until you actually do it.
Right.
And you're like, okay, this one is not for me. Let me move on to the next one. Or else
Hmm.
you're always like thinking, what if,
Right.
So,
All right. So you took a job at L'Oreal as a financial analysis type person. How was
right.
that experience, and um, how long did you stay there?
Yeah, I was there for, I want to say like a little under 2 years. And the experience was good. It was great to work as assistant controller and within the luxury division, understanding, what really drives that segment,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, corporate at that level, where it was my first time really taking on this role that I'm more so part of the front office, if you may, like, because I worked in corporate before, but it was in engineering. But this time, finance was one of their, more of a front office, probably middle office functions.
Right.
Um, and so it was taking me more towards what I wanted to do, which was like, yeah, I wanted to use my analytical skills to work with people and really just be able to build relationships and solve problems still. So I really enjoyed my time there. But I always knew that if I wanted to take my career further, especially because I obsessively stalked and read the bios of the executives and, people that I was like, I want to emulate their careers. What did they do? And one thing that they always had is that they went to business school. So I was like, okay, if I want to be Indra Nooyi, who's like, she was the CEO of Pepsi Forever, or Ken Chenault, like he was the
American
CEO
Express.
of American Express. Yeah, they all have MBAs, so I got to get my MBA as well.
Okay.
So that's what was like. Okay, I got to go to business school.
Did you go part time or full time?
I went full time. I was evaluating that when I was going. I was like, I really want to go part time because I want to continue to make money. But I didn't want to. At the time, I felt like I wanted to get the full social, developmental, career, and travel experiences that the full time program provides.
Mm-hmm.
And all the programs are great. They're amazing programs at the part time, full time executive levels. But I felt like full time was good for me.
Is that where you London School of Economics, where you went to business school?
No, I went to business school at Emory in
Oh,
Atlanta.
okay. Oh, okay.
In the
I,
A,
I know in the South, dirty South.
in the dirty South.
All right. How was that
That's
experience?
all my people from Grisbetta.
So wait a second. So you transitioned from New York to Atlanta for 2 years. How was that experience?
I really enjoyed Emory. I love that school to death. Like Emory is an amazing school. I love Grisbetta Business School and everyone, the staff, everyone was great.
Mm,
Atlanta was definitely different getting used to. Even though I'd lived all over the place, most of my life I spent in the East Coast. Like most
mm-hmm.
of the, so I'm used to being from New York, and so Atlanta was just different. It took some getting used to at first, but then I started to really grow to like it. Um, one thing that we always talked about, like with my girls that we started our cohort with, we're all single at the time. Actually, one of us wasn't single, and we always talked about how hard it was dating in Atlanta. But once we got over that, like we all got into relationships by the second year.
Wow.
It was like, okay, now we can actually really enjoy it
I would actually,
and
talk
appreciate
about
what
the
it is.
dating aspect, but that's a different topic. I'll be
Right.
like, now we coming on relationship thing. This is all about entrepreneurism. All right, so you had a great experience at Emory, and you eventually grew to love Atlanta. What did you do after Atlanta,
Mhm.
and where did you get the idea for Sylvia and Raleigh?
Sylvan Riley. So that idea actually came during the summer of my internship. So when you do the full-time program, you do an internship between your first and second year.
This is while in business
Um,
school.
while in business school, yeah.
Okay.
So I was traveling. I was at Accenture, and I was traveling a lot, like back and forth every week, because that's what you do when you're in strategy consulting. And one time I was flying back home, and it was a really, really cold flight. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked the flight attendant, "May I please have a blanket?" And she said, "No, they only give blankets to first class." So I
Wow.
was like, "What? Oh my gosh." I mean, it's still the same now. But
Right.
anyway, so I was like, and then I suddenly got the idea. I was like, I need to create a travel line that everyone can enjoy. It's portable, it's stylish. And I just observed people, the travel patterns, what kind of, what they struggle with and what will solve like everyday travel problems. And I was like, I need to create a travel accessories line. And that
Mm-hmm.
was like, that one thing is what inspired it. I mean, when you go to business school, I think you're always thrust into that entrepreneurial environment. So you're constantly thinking about new business ideas. Like,
Right.
Kelsey, no joke, I've come up with at least like 100 different business ideas, like in my life. And, you're all constantly thinking of stuff. Like, I mean, that's literally what business school tries to help you kind of figure out, like how
Right.
to think about fixing, creating things in the business world. So I had a lot of business ideas, but that was the one that I kept on going back to.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this has some meat in it. This has something there. I need to explore it a little bit further. So
Um. Yeah. So how long did you? I mean, I think it says it took at least almost 10 years to kind of dive into that. What
yeah. So when I,
What
sorry, go
did you
ahead.
do leading up to to where you are now?
So when I first had the idea and I started developing it, I realized that in order to start it, um, it was definitely a capital intensive business.
Yeah.
And in order to start it, it still is. In order to start it, I need capital. And so I built out the idea, and I was working with my significant other at the time, now my ex, and we were fleshing it out, and it came time to get funding, and we could not get any funding.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, darn it, okay, you know what? I'm just going to keep on fleshing out the idea and going through, just observing more and building out more. Because I was like, maybe I didn't get funding because, it's not good enough because there's a lot of great ideas out there. So
Right.
I was like, okay, let me keep on strengthening it. And then, I went through a breakup, put it to the side, and then
Wow.
picked it up again. Went through another breakup, put it to the side. I'm not recommending that, but my
Right.
sensitive imagination. But I kept on putting it off, and then I just like really poured myself into my career and strategy consultant. Because after business school, I took a full time offer, went and became a strategy consultant, and
Mm-hmm.
that took up like a lot of my time. So it's a very very grueling travel schedule when you're consulting. You're constantly traveling Monday through Thursday. Even when you're not traveling, you're always working.
Mm-hmm.
I had round the clock work, even on weekends. So I couldn't think about it. But it was the one, you remember I said I had like so many different business ideas. It was the
Right.
one idea that just kept on coming back to me, and it
Mm-hmm.
would nag at me till the point that I actually started getting sick, that I was like, oh my gosh, I am putting this idea off, and I'm going to regret it if I don't do it.
Wow.
And it was like something, when you just feel like something is really heavy on your heart, like, why are you
Mm.
not doing this?
Right.
And I'm like, and I'm watching life just pass by, and I'm like, why am I not doing this? I need to do this.
Right.
So almost like 8 years later, in 2018,
Wow.
I I just booked a trip and went to Italy and started talking to, just different like manufacturers. Well, I started researching first, and then I found out that, if I'm going to make leather products, like Italy is the place to go. So I booked the trip and I started talking to different people and just asking a lot of questions, like, how do you make this? Trying to learn about leather. I still wasn't sure exactly what direction I was going to take things in, because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I wanted to, at one point I was like, okay, I want to focus fully on travel. But then I'm someone that loves fashion. My mom was also in fashion. She, had a tailoring business. She was always very well dressed and put together. So she instilled that style kind of aspect. Like, she always made you feel like, it was always like, if you look good, you feel good. So
Mm.
I was like, I love accessories that make you feel good and bring an outfit together. So maybe I should start to incorporate that into my business plan as well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what birthed the idea of like incorporating fashion and travel, because it's something that resonates strongly with me. I've traveled extensively in my life, and I love fashion. And I was like, those two actually kind of go hand in hand. When you travel, you see people carrying purses and, book bags, and I'm always thinking about like, okay, how can I solve a problem that they're experiencing, or how can I make this more stylish, this super functional thing, a little bit more stylish, so you don't feel like you're wearing a travel uniform. You're kind of just like, it just all flows together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was just like, okay, let me do travel and fashion together.
Right. Now, you said 8 years you've been working on this idea off and on. And you said
Hmm.
initially you had financing, getting financing issue. How were you able to get it financially going? Like you said, it was so capital intensive, to start out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, and it's something that I actually want to share about the buy one get five program, which is a huge element of the brand today.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one thing: it's not easy, and it was
Mm.
not easy to get financing. I will sit in Excel and just like map out what the cost that I need. So after that initial conversation I had with a whole bunch of like suppliers, and I did the research, I realized that it was going to be very capital intensive. So
Mm-hmm.
over the years, I just started saving up.
Wow.
I saved up. Yep, I started saving up, and I don't say that lightly. I recognize that I am in the field. Like, strategy consultant did provide me the avenue to be able to save up, and I was able to earn certain bonuses and things like that, and I would just put that money aside. Like, I was like, I need to
Wow.
use this to grow this business. So I was just like, I tried to practice as much discipline as I could to just save up over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to start it. But Kelsey, I don't say that to say that everyone has the ability to save up and do that. And I recognize how hard it is to even be able to find money to save for an emergency fund,
Right.
right? And, so it's something that I recognize not everyone is going to be able to do, for sure. But in order to start, you have to start from somewhere. And if you keep on hearing no, you have to be the one that tells yourself yes.
Right.
So even if I had to cut out certain things in my life to make it happen, because I was like, okay, I'm not ever going to feel fully happy and fulfilled if I don't start this business. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way I can start it is if I put money into it. Now there are other ways that you can get funding, right? You could start a Kickstarter, you can, do other things, but those are not as tried and tested and not as guaranteed as, some may have you think it is. And so I knew that the best way for me to do it was to just put my money into it. And it also
Wow.
made me feel, because I'm putting my own money into it, like this is not monopoly money. I don't have venture capital funding. It makes me even twice as determined to succeed,
Right.
because this is like my real money. When I lose money making prototypes, like today, it cost me $7,000 to make a prototype.
Damn.
That's real money, right? So all these
Damn.
things. If I make a small mistake, because I paid this or I did that, like the raw materials, those are all my real funds, right?
Right.
That is money that I could go take and go do a trip or put towards my future kids' funds, or, that's all real funding, right? So it
Right.
makes me quite, like, it makes me think through every decision a little bit more, because my money is on the line. Like,
Right.
I'm literally, like, I have my destiny in my hands. Of course, God is controlling it, but my money is on the line. No one
Right.
else's money. This is like, so I can't play around with it. Like,
Hmm.
I have to be a student of the game. I have to, like, research my butt off. I have to make sure that I'm asking the right questions. I'm learning from the people that have done it well, and I'm just as diligent as possible with the business,
Right.
because my money is literally on the line.
So, are you eventually gonna look for funding, or are you gonna continue to self
Absolutely.
finance?
No, absolutely. I would love to look for funding eventually, because as much as I've been able to get to this point, and I won't disclose yet my exact amount, but I've invested well over six figures.
Wow.
It's still not enough to be able to get me to the size and scale that I really envision the brand growing to.
Hmm.
And in order to do that, I probably will have to look for outside funding. But I don't want to do it too prematurely. Like, I want to push this as far as I can go. One, it feels intrinsically good that you're able to build something and yourself. So that's just how I feel. Two, I don't want to give out too much equity at the
Mm.
start. Right.
Right.
I want to be able to, like, show that, hey, I'm able to build this thing, and now I have a team, and we're able to build this thing, and take it to that stage. So we don't really need the funding. Like, we're not, like, dying
Right.
for funding. Where,
Right.
venture capital firms are so disrespectful. They will take like 50% of your company and give you like $50,000, and like, so.
Right.
Like, for 50% of your company. So no, you got to get yourself to a point where you actually can show that I'm able to generate these results. And I just need the little extra funding to go into maybe a new market, or a new product. I need to build a new product strategy or whatever it is, as
Right.
opposed to, like, I need you to survive.
Right.
No one ever wants to, like, no one gives you funding, like, when you're, like, actually, like, so much in need. They always disrespect you with the funding that they give you. But when they
Right.
see that you can make it without them, then they're more like, okay, let's hop on that, as opposed to you begging for
Basically,
funding.
they're trying to jump on a bandwagon.
Exactly.
Right. So you
And
said,
so they put some respect on your name when you
right.
come you come different.
So two questions. You said what kind of team do you have currently working on this? And you said, well, how do you envision it? What's the ultimate vision for, Sylvan and Riley?
So right now, well, up to actually early this month, it was all me. I did have
What?
I did have an assistant very briefly last year for the holiday season, but up to this year, up to, like, literally early a couple weeks ago, it was all me. I was the one. I was the product development. I was the one researching. I was the one controlling the supply chain. I was the one fulfilling orders. I was a salesperson. I was the creative. I
Damn.
was the one editing. I built the entire website. I did everything.
Wow.
Um, and it's because I literally don't sleep. But, when you have a vision, you just have to work hard
Mm.
on it. And that's what I've been doing for the last I mean, I want to say like when I started it up, like fully put my energy and just like push the go button in May last year. And since May last year till now, it's been all me.
Wow.
Now, yeah, now
You did an
I
amazing
have an
job because
intern.
it's, it looks official.
It looks good.
It looks
Thank
real
you.
good, and the products is really nice. I love how unique they are. I love the
Hmm.
quality. So I'm
Thank
like,
you.
yo, you're really passionate about it, and I could tell that you put a lot of effort into developing Sylvan Raleigh. Where did the name come from? Sylvan Raleigh. That's a cool name.
Yeah, I'll get into that too. I'll get into that. No, but I love that you said that, and thank you. I don't take that lightly at all
Uh
because
huh.
I really, when people say they put their blood, sweat, and tears into something,
Mhm.
I don't think I really understood the gravity of that statement until I actually started this. Like,
Mhm.
there's no blood, but I put my sweat and I put my
Mm.
tears into this. Like, I don't say this to toot my own horn. Like, I actually get emotional when I think about it. There was a period of time that I did not sleep for
Mm.
at least like 2 or 3 days straight because I was just like, I
Wow.
was working till my fingers were aching because I could not type anymore. I was typing up stuff, emails, like, building this and doing that, editing. I was just like working nonstop because I was just like, yo, I have to do this, like, and I have to do it well. And no one's gonna save me, no one's gonna help me, no one's gonna give me the blueprint. I gotta do it. I gotta figure it
Right.
out. You
And
know,
this is while having a full time demanding job.
while having a full time job. And that's actually what made it probably more difficult, but also instilled a certain kind of discipline in me because it was like, okay, you know what? You do have this full time career and you're trying to do this as well. So you have to be super regimented with your timing. Like you can't mess around. Like you gotta like I set a schedule and I said every single day I have to be in bed by 9 o'clock, 9
Mhm.
p.m. because every single day I was up by 1:30 every day. I got 4 hours of sleep. I don't recommend that, but 1:30 a.m. and I will work till 7 a.m. because then I have to get ready for work for my
Wow.
work.
This is dope.
So it set that discipline in me,
Right.
like for sure.
Right.
But now I have an intern that started early. So actually, everyone started early this month. I have an intern. I have a marketing consultant that's helping with the content development, social media. Because again, up till now, it was like I was developing that stuff.
Mhm.
And then I have operations consultant as well that's looking at how can I scale this in terms of marketplaces and partnerships and things to start to look into. So it's a team of four. We're all women,
Nice.
and I'm proud of that.
Right.
And we all have like different backgrounds that kind of really play off each other well. Like the operations consultant, she has a background in merchandising and planning, buying. So she's able to think about what buyers will want to look for in a brand like this. Because eventually, I'd love to be, in Neiman Marcus and not Barney's, and
All right.
Bergstrom. Um, so that's the goal for looking into the future for sure.
Right.
But for now, I'm just trying to identify what are the best marketplaces and partnerships and possible boutiques that can carry and appreciate like products like these.
Nice. So still, doing things simultaneously, a full time job and building this company from the bottom level with your own
Mhm.
funds. When
Mhm.
do you think you're gonna leave your full time job? When is the projection? And ultimately, what's your big picture? I mean, I know you want to be in these luxury outlets, but what's the ultimate
Mhm.
big picture for Silver and Raleigh? What you gotta tell me the meaning of the name, by the way.
Yeah, so I'll start with the name. So my mom was an entrepreneur and she owned several businesses. She owned a bakery. She used to sell kerosene, which is like a oil product. She used to own a tailoring business, and she also sold jewelry as well. She used to fly to Damascus, like when it was like the epicenter of buying gold. And anyway, she bought and sold jewelry, and it was always gold jewelry because like Middle Eastern jewelry was always based on like gold. And yeah, and I didn't like gold when I was
Mm.
young. So I always asked her to buy me silver.
Oh wow.
And so I was the only one that she made an exception for, and she'll buy me silver jewelry. And so if you look at all my baby pictures, like all my pictures growing up, I had silver jewelry. Everyone else had gold. And
Nice.
so she called me her silver baby. And so that was her nickname for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, as I was thinking about, the brand is dedicated to her, by the way. But
Mm-hmm.
as I was thinking about how to honor her, I went through so many different iterations of names. And I was thinking of names that I felt like had um, an ability to have a crossover appeal,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not, first of all, it's not like you hear Silver and Riley. It could be a hotel. It could be a car company. It could
Right.
be anything, right? So I wanted that. I wanted that name to be kind of like agnostic in that way, where it's not really attached to anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be connected to my mom. So I picked Silver to start with, and then I was thinking about my future. And Riley has always been a name that I've loved, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, whether I have a boy or a girl, I want to name my kid Riley.
Okay.
So
Oh, you
I
did
picked
name
up
your kid
Riley.
Raleigh.
Right. So I know my current baby is Riley. So
Right.
I was like, Silver and Riley is a way to connect the memory and the legacy of my mom with my future.
Nice.
So
Ooh,
that's
that's dope.
that's how I came up with it, Silver and Riley.
All right. Okay. So when you gonna leave your job and ultimate, what's your end game for Silver and Raleigh?
So I would say something that's probably different from what you probably thought you were gonna hear, and also maybe what, I don't know. I actually really enjoy strategy. I
Mm.
enjoy I enjoy what I do. Like, I didn't start this company because I um I
I
hate
want to
my
leave my
job. Like,
job. Right.
right, I feel fortunate for that because I do recognize that a lot of people don't like their job, but I feel fortunate that I actually enjoy what I do. I
Okay.
enjoy strategy. And but it is a really important question because as I grow and scale, I'm going to have to ask myself which one do I want to put all my attention into more, because there's going to
Right.
be a point where I can't do both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but at this point, I actually really enjoy strategy. I enjoy working. So what I do is I work with customers, which are typically like, anywhere from large to small companies. Think about their long term, the future of their company, right? And how we can make them successful, whatever their strategy is. Not to use strategy to define strategy, but how can they build uh, uh, profitability? How can they go into new markets? How can they brand themselves? Essentially, the things that I'm doing for my business,
Exactly.
I'm doing it for large companies, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning as I go. I
Mm.
learn what employees are asking for. I learn what the markets are asking for. When I do market segmentation analysis and competitive analysis for big companies, like, throughout my career doing advisory and consulting, I've consulted for large companies like Coca-Cola, Best Buy, CVS. And so I've learned things about what their customers are saying, and how to build that customer intimacy, how to really be able to build a strategy that's future proof, how to use technology to your advantage, and how to like make sure that you're thinking about competitors in a cohesive manner. All these things
Mm.
that are completely applicable to how I'm building my business.
Right.
So it's something that I love, like, and I'm learning. Every new engagement that I lead, I learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And every new engagement that I'm a part of, I learn from it. So it's kind of like it's going hand in hand.
Right.
And so I'm sorry I have a bad answer to your question,
No,
but
no,
I
it's
don't
not. It's
know.
there's no right or wrong answer. Honestly, it's a great answer actually. If you could like honestly do both and you could like cohesively coexist doing both, why not? That's you actually financing your passion. So
Right,
it's
right,
not a bad answer at
exactly.
all.
But like I said, I recognize that there's going to be a point where maybe I'm not able to do both. But one thing I'll say is, I think for anyone that has a passion and an idea, um, even if you intend to leave your job to go do that idea, you definitely owe it to yourself, first of all, to see through any idea that you have, because guess what? It's going to nag at you forever. And you're going to feel like you're going to regret it if you don't go after it. So if you're able-bodied and have the physical ability to do it, please, please, please do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to start late than never start.
Right.
That said, I think the biggest advice I give, like, to young people that ask me, oh, I want to start my company and I hate corporate, I hate my job, blah, blah, blah. I always ask them, what are you learning from your job today that you think will be able to transfer into what you want to do eventually? Because no matter what you feel about your current job, it's teaching you something, even if it's not like tangible skills. And it often is tangible skills. And sometimes you have to really look deeper. But even if it's not tangible skills, it's teaching you something about people. It's teaching you something about yourself. So you always have to make sure that you're a student no matter what situation you're in.
Right.
I've had engagements that, when I was in consulting, that were so crappy. Like, I was just like, I want to quit. This sucks. I don't deserve this. This person talks to me funny and yada, yada, yada. But I was like, I'm still learning something from each of those situations. Mm-hmm. Now, it's always better when you're able to learn tangible skills. For instance, what I just said, that I'm actually taking a lot of things that I do for my clients into my own business. That's like the perfect example. Mm-hmm. But even if it's not that like one-to-one, you're still learning things. Like, you're learning how to put a PowerPoint presentation together. Think about how that can transfer into you being able to put an investor deck together. You're doing Excel, you're doing analysis. Think about how that can translate. You're doing customer service. Think about how you can serve your own customers better, right? What are your company's customers saying? And, think about how you can take those insights and be able to apply it to the future to help build customer intimacy and build an excellent customer experience for your future customers. Right. So everything that you're doing, you can learn from. Right. It's just about some things can really suck, but a lot of times, like, if we just have the attitude that, what, I may not love what I'm doing right now, but it's going to lead me to a greater purpose, and I just have to stay grounded and stay undefeated in my mentality. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to know that there is a purpose behind what I'm doing, and I just have to keep on going.
Right. I mean, also, people fail to realize, like, okay, you hate your job, you hate this 9 to 5, but you have to be passionate about what you do. Don't quit just because you hate your job. You got to love what you're doing, because you're going to be working 10 times harder as an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think people think entrepreneur, oh, I'm going to be my own boss. And, you still have bosses when you're an entrepreneur. Your customers are your bosses, and they're demanding the most from you than anybody has ever demanded from you. So it's not easy. No matter what you do in this life, if you're going to have any kind of results, whether you sing, whether you dance, whether you're an athlete or you're not entrepreneur, you got to have passion for it. Because if you don't, you're gonna not be successful. So
first roadblock, you're gonna oh, I'm done. You're gonna quit.
Exactly.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I know, because I've been an entrepreneur for 5 years now, and within that time, I've known there are times where I'm like, I needed to be running back to a 9 to 5, but I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. Because I was passionate about my purpose and passionate about, it wasn't even, it's kind of weird, but it's not even money that drove me. It's the outcome of, the vision that I had based on what I wanted to do and how it's going to affect people. And that's what drove me, it's not money. I wish it was, because I'll probably be a little bit more savvy with my money instead of me just, putting everything into my passion. But, but as I do it, I learn how to, it's not about money, but money is a major factor. So you can't look at it as F money. You got to figure out how to make it work for you as opposed to you working for it. So
Right. I agree. I agree. And that passion and purpose is important. But I love the fact that you mentioned the money aspect. So, you know how I mentioned it was super hard kind of
Mm-hmm.
saving up and starting up. I recognize, especially within our community, and for people of color and women in general, it's hard to get funding for your business in
Mm-hmm.
general. We're the most underfunded group of anyone that starts ventures. Like if you look at the stats,
Right.
I don't know, I have the exact stats off the top of my head, but I saw it recently. It was like very low. Like black women get like just a small, tiny percentage of what other people get, what the majority get.
Mm-hmm.
So that has always kind of been in the front, back, center of my head. Like, how can I be an answer, or how can I help with this situation? And recognizing my own advantages, having the career that I do, and having the financial resources that I do. I'm like, how can I make sure that I'm uh, acting in some way to provide those kind of opportunities to others who may not have the same advantages as me. So one thing I'm super passionate and proud of is, and I love supporting women in general. I'm all about women and female empowerment. So I wanted to incorporate that into the brand. So there is this buy one, get five element of the brand, and it's a way to basically support female entrepreneurship. For
Oh,
every
dope.
purchase that's made, hmm for every purchase that's made, 5% of that goes into this fund. And it's going to basically give grants to women that want to start, grow, and scale their businesses. And it's literally going to be a grant, not a loan. It's going to be a grant that will help them in that pursuit. Because I recognize how hard it is to be able to like have money and funding to start your business. So
Wow.
right now we're going to give the first set of $1,000 grants. It's not a lot yet, but it's basically reflective of how it's reflective of like how we're doing as well. So as the business grows, this fund grows.
Right.
So I hope to eventually be in a place where I'm giving $100,000, to women. I want to create a full fund, like a full, you know, even outside of the business. I want to create a fund that supports women and people of color, and specifically women of color, and specifically Black women, to start, grow and scale their own businesses. It's super important to me that we are being put in those positions that money is not the limiting factor,
Mm-hmm.
because I know how hard it is when you have an idea and you don't have the money to start it.
Right.
It just feels so limiting. It feels like you feel helpless in a way. It feels
Right.
like, I wish I could just get $5,000 to do this. I'll be able to make it go boom. And I look at venture capitals and the way that they're structured, and it is a benefit. Don't get me wrong. I don't take anything away from them. It is a business. They're structured that in that way. We are in a capitalist society, and I'm all for capitalism, 100%. But a lot of them are structured to take the maximum from these entrepreneurs because they're trying to hedge and cover their risk. So I get it.
Right.
Um, but a lot of times they take so much equity from these businesses, and it's like, how can I help women owned companies out without doing that?
Mm.
So, I came up with the program, to be able to do, like, so as I mentioned, like, for now we're giving $1,000 grants, and it's going to focus on women owned businesses both domestically and abroad. But as the company scales, I will scale that fund as well. I'm super passionate about it. Super passionate about it. I think that's if you look at the whole everything, the landscape of what I'm most passionate about with the company. I love product design. I love seeing people actually rock my stuff. But what I'm most passionate about is every time you make a purchase, a percentage of that is going to go back to a woman-owned business.
Listen, I truly believe that it's going to be big and you're going to be able to do
Amen.
$100,000. I'm going to look
Amen.
back when you become that big luxury brand that everyone is talking about. I'm going to look back at on this
Yes.
podcast. I'm like, yeah, I had her first. I had
Yes.
her
I
first.
love it.
I mean,
I love
listen,
it.
your story, everything that lead up to this point, prepared you for the great things that's about to happen. And I truly, honestly
Amen.
believe it. And I'm so excited. I know it's gonna be a lot of work, but I think you're definitely built for it. Everything, like I said, from all the hardship you went through to, all the wins you got, prepared you for this moment, Lola. And I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to see the world embrace everything that you're doing. So, with that being said,
Thank you so much.
I honestly believe this ain't no BS either. I don't do
Aw.
randoms on the show. When I see
Mhm.
something that first of all is different,
Mhm.
is aggressive. It's like wow. I'm like,
Mhm.
and I know that there's a lot that went behind it based on what I've
Mhm.
seen. I know that there's more
Mhm.
to it. So that's why I wanted you on the show. So with that being said,
Thank
how
you.
can people find you, and how can people buy Sylvan and Raleigh?
Yes. So Silver and Riley, www.silver, just like the metal, and spelled out AND, Riley, RILEY.com. So that's www.silver and silverandriley.com. We're also on Instagram, Silver and Riley on Instagram. And then you can find me personally on LinkedIn, Lola Banjo, or on my personal IG, which is Lola J Bell. And just all over the place. I'm always somewhere,
Listen,
giving a talk at a conference. Yeah,
girl,
and
thank you. I mean, you dropped so much knowledge. Like my head is like about to explode. There's so much gems that you dropped in our conversation, and it was so dope. Hearing about your journey as well as the passion behind what you're doing. And like I said, there was no right or wrong answer, and this is the whole reason for this podcast. There is no right or wrong way to do something. The bottom line, if you're
yeah,
passionate about it, just do it. Right?
right, exactly.
Figure it
Mhm,
out. You'll figure it out. Just do it.
exactly, exactly.
And with that being said, I'm gonna
Well,
sign off.
thank you.
And I
Yeah, well, thank you first. Thank you for providing this avenue for me to talk in a very candid way and just provide an avenue for entrepreneurs to talk about their journey. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm super excited to be a part of it and to support in any way. So thank you to you for doing this.
no problem. This is something that I'm very passionate about because, as an entrepreneur, I've been through it, and I took a leap of faith at a later stage in my life and in my career. And I was like, you know what? I want to like let people know that it's never too late and
Hmm.
they could do it too. So that's why I'm doing this. And wherever this goes, it's gonna go. But I'm excited that right now I'm having amazing guests like you on there telling your story. And I know for a fact deep in my down in my bone that you're gonna be big, girl.
Thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate that.
All right, girl. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cal. All
All right.
right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning into Reverse Ambition Podcast. It is really a pleasure sharing these amazing journeys with you. It may take some time for you to find your purpose and realize your dreams, or for your purpose and dreams to find you. When it happens, don't be afraid to pursue them. Be more afraid if you don't. Trust God, trust your journey, and most important, trust yourself, and it will all work out. Until next time, I am Kelsey Cooper, the social broker. Thanks again for listening.